former Fulton County District Attorney and Sheriff.
Formerly a judge, and he knows a little bit about how these things go.
From Mohawk Valley, legal eagle, lawman.
He is the Sheriff of Fulton County, New York. Just such an amazing guy.
This is the Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet.
Hey, you're listening to the Rich Giardino Show, where politics, crime, and the Constitution meet. Today, thank you for listening. We're just going to do a little wrap-up about what's going on prior to the inauguration. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts on different parts of the criminal justice system. Let's start with Judge Merchan's sentencing of Donald Trump on Friday. Donald Trump was sentenced to an unconditional discharge, no fine, no penalties. In the last 3 years in New York City and Manhattan, there have been less than 18 cases of the same charges and accusations that Donald Trump had, and all but one of them ended up in either a conditional discharge or an unconditional discharge, and one ended up with prison, and that was because the person had a prior felony. So the unconditional discharge is the most minor sentence a judge can give. Judge Merchan defended himself, which kind of defend himself against the claims that it's all political, and clearly by defending himself, it showed that it was more political than we thought. He wanted to get the conviction because under New York state law and across our country, even though the jury finds you guilty until you're sentenced, that's not closure, that's not a conviction. So Judge Merchan's claim was, well, if I sentence him, then he can appeal it. Well, he still could appeal it on the unusual circumstances that we find ourselves in. So the unconditional discharge shows you the lack of seriousness of this case that was brought. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, because in a sense, it just doubles down to show you that it was lawfare and improperly used against President Trump. So that's number one. So now what will happen as a result of that? It'll go up on appeal to the New York courts, and it'll take its course. I'm telling you right now that as a former judge, a former DA, and as a current attorney and sheriff, I see the courts either in the state level or when it makes the feds just overturning this case and expunging the record. That's what will happen. Also down in Georgia, Fannie Wilson's done with her. They've removed her now. They removed her boyfriend, then they removed her. Any prosecutor would not go forward against the sitting president, so that'll die on the vine. One of the things left is the special report that was being done by the special prosecutor, and he just resigned. And what happens is, under the federal law, when there's a report and an investigation of that nature, that's to be released, and that's on the documents down in Florida. So that report was supposed to be released, and there's been a judge stop that immediately. And now what's going to happen is, I think that you're going to see an appeal on that. And the appeal is going to be to shut the report down, saying at this stage it makes no sense to issue the report. So you'll see an appeal from the Trump team on the report that the special prosecutor, who just resigned, announces resigning, is completed. So that's where we are with the Trump situation. Hey, you're listening to Rich Giardino. We got new program now. We're going to be doing premium content, and to access it, you do locals with an S / the Rich Giardino Show. And it'll be premium contents with me included, some of the tips I can give you, some sidelines on interviews I've had with some of the people I've interviewed, also on up-to-date recordings of things going on in the news impacting the Constitution, politics, and crime, or all three. Again, it's locals / the Rich Giardino Show. Join us on that, and you'll be entitled to premium content that we don't display elsewhere. You're listening to the Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet. And now we're going to move to a couple other cases we're watching around the country. The Kentucky judge killed by the Kentucky sheriff, his good friend, on videotape. So I say killed. The defense attorney has indicated that he's going to lead with a defense of extreme emotional disturbance. extreme emotional disturbance means that something happened that triggered this. And while he did shoot and kill the judge, there was something that precipitated and made him snap. It's not mental disease or defect case. It's not saying that he's crazy. It's just telling us that something precipitated this that made him snap. We know that they had lunch together with others present, that after the lunch, during the lunch, the judge says we should meet in chambers and discuss this. They went to chambers. The defense has alluded to the fact that there's something to do with the sheriff's wife and daughter, and her number was on the judge's phone. And it appears that he took the judge's phone in the chambers, and something happened that he either saw or read or some reason that he snapped. And he did say to the first police officers, the deputies there, just be sure I get a fair trial and take care of my family, or words to that effect. So there was something going on that we won't hear about probably till the motion stage or the trial itself. That case will probably have 3 to 4 months of motions, depositions, and responses, and then they'll probably have a month or two where they would schedule some hearings. So you'll probably hear this case, or we'll hear about it if they don't take a plea, in the summer or early fall. And that's another interesting case. That's the Kentucky judge shot by the sheriff. The other thing is, right now they're still investigating several things. They're still investigating the Mar-a-Lago golf course assassin who was laying in wait. He's another one that was traveling into Hawaii and all these various places. And it sounds like he's got little means of support. So that raises a lot of issues. They continue to investigate that. And that will probably wrap up by June at the earliest. And we'll find out more about what the circumstances were. But again, he's indicted, and they're proceeding to prosecute him. So they may delay any public reports because it's a criminal prosecution pending. We're also still examining the Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana shooter, truck crasher. There are a lot of ineptitude on behalf of the local police. There were old standard wooden barricades. There were no trucks. Just to give you an example, in New York City, they have cement barriers, or they have garbage trucks or buses. They put vehicles to block certain intersections. In this case, the claim was after the fact that, well, they were repairing the sturdy barricades so that they had them later on for the football season, and they had them for Mardi Gras in February. So they didn't put them out for something this big. That's a mistake. That you don't have to be a police officer. You don't have to be a manager, administrator to see that should have been covered. That's going to be in the center of that part of the investigation. What else is interesting about the New Orleans shooter? He had bombs that didn't go off. They did find some writings. They do think he was radicalized for ISIS, but he also has trips to Canada and trips to Egypt in the last 2 years. So they're going to take a good look at those, and they're going to see what they can track back on that. Now, since the shooter was killed by police that day, this is not a criminal matter going forward. There's not pending cases against him. So they will issue a report when they get it completed. And again, if they do a thorough job, it may be sometime over the summer that it's released. The other situation up in Las Vegas, where we had the shooter, or the Tesla car up there. Not Tesla. I don't know if it was a Tesla. I can't remember. I'm getting old. I can't remember. But the car up in that blew up. They're still investigating his motives, but he's got a lot of grievances, and it sounded like he wanted a wake-up call for the country. And I don't know all the insides yet. It haven't been released, but his will not be a criminal case, so that'll be public because he's dead. So they'll release the report on that in the future. Congressional hearings will show us those. You're listening to a wrap-up by Rich Giardino on the Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet. We're on X, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Apple, and Rumble. Please like, share, and subscribe for us so that we can continue this broadcast. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was what's going on with the appointments. This week, they will be looking at Trump's nomination for Pam Bondi for the Attorney General of the United States, likely to pass. She's got a reputation in Florida as being a bipartisan prosecutor first, and then the Attorney General. And what I mean by that is at one point she hired a Democrat. She's a Republican. She hired a Democrat who ran against another Democrat in the primary, and she put him in charge of drug prosecutions. So it shows us that she'll reach across the aisle if she thinks somebody's qualified and would be a good fit for her office and to safeguard the people. So I believe she's an excellent choice for Attorney General. I believe she'll pass with flying colors. She does have a couple of detractors because she's been a defender of President Trump, but there's always going to be pockets that, if somebody supported President Trump, they're not going to support you types. We're going to see probably a whole turnover. There's 93 U.S. attorneys in this country. President Trump has already nominated somebody for the Southern District and Eastern District of New York. That's significant. Those are lawyers who've represented him or are close to him. The one in Eastern Long Island, he is a judge, and he's got an excellent reputation. And he's in Suffolk County, and he's been nominated for Eastern District. There's 4 districts in New York. It'll be interesting to see what happens with those nominations. They go before the Senate. And I think he did that because I think President Trump personally nominated him quickly because it was the Eastern and Southern District that went after President Trump. And he does have a special place for New York City. He went there and campaigned against them, telling him he was wasting his time, and he did much better than any other Republican. So there's that component of it. The other situation we should talk about a little bit is where do we go with the Laken Riley legislation? Congress, with the support of Democrats, the House of Representatives approved last week the Laken Riley law, which would say for crimes including theft and a list of other crimes that a detainer will be filed and they will be held. Many states like New York and others do not contact ICE. They have laws that are roadblocks to removing illegal immigrants. And this fellow was out on several crimes, had been removed from the country and came back in and killed Laken Riley and was convicted of that death. And so now it goes to the Senate. The Senate's going to let it go to a vote. They're trying to make some modifications. They're emphasizing theft because a lot of these criminals are repeat criminals of larcenies, grand larcenies, petty larcenies. And then we see them with a path where they continue to enhance their criminality. So that's something that we're going to be following on this show. I did want to talk for a minute about some of the programs will be upcoming. Our case where we investigated the cold case of Kellisue Ackernecht with Chief Dave Gilbo. After Dave, the podcast, you can see us. You can go and look for that podcast on X, YouTube, Facebook, and also on Spotify, Apple, and Rumble. And we had Chief Gilbo from Johnstown Police, and then the husband, Jason, wanted to come on and deny he had anything to do with it. And his was very telling. Some of the things that he offered without being asked about him were kind of unusual for somebody who's innocent. But again, it's for you to determine when you listen to it. And then his daughter, Ashley, Kellisue's daughter, came on, and she just wants closure. Since we broadcast those episodes, the Johnstown Police Department and the state police executed a search warrant in the city of Johnstown. And they brought in cadaver dogs, and they searched a home in Johnstown, where the individual that they originally had lived there has moved out of state and moved back. They had some indication they had to have enough probable cause to get into the house. There's also more leads coming in as a result of I Like to Think the podcast. So if you have any information about Kellisue Ackernecht or the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, please get a hold of Chief David Gilbert with the Johnstown Police Department in Fulton County, New York. We hope to have another follow-up to that to see where we are with the investigation in a month or so. Finally, we're going to be doing some more cold cases. There's a lot of unsolved disappearances and murders within the Capital District and the Adirondacks, and we're going to highlight many of those in the upcoming months because people have information and they can make a difference, and it brings closure to the family of the missing or deceased individual, and it brings justice for the family, and hopefully brings individuals who may be responsible to justice. So please look and watch for our other cold cases we'll be featuring in the upcoming months. Also in the news are the fires out in Los Angeles, and a lot of that, again, goes to government incompetence. A lot of it rests with the mayor, who slashed millions of dollars out of the fire department budget. New York City offered to send firefighters, and JetBlue offered to fly them to LA, and the mayor rebuffed that but took firemen from Mexico. And it's sad that they didn't accept the help from New York City, who were helped by firefighters, thousands of people, fire and EMS and police from across the country when 9/11 happened. And they offered LA, and LA rejected them. The reservoir, which held millions of gallons, was shut for repairs. There was no backup plan while it was shut. You're seeing everyone starting to point fingers at the governor and the mayor. The police chief, she has pointed fingers at the government officials and the mayor, saying, look, you guys cut our budget millions of dollars. And when you cut budget, you cut training, you cut personnel, you overwork your people. And when your people are overworked, morale gets hurt, and safety is a big issue. So you're going to see a lot of litigation out of that. Interestingly, 3 or 4 months ago, several insurance companies stopped with fire insurance, and they notified many of the thousands of their customers. This has just been devastating. And, say a prayer, join the rest of our audience in saying a prayer for those people who've lost their homes, lost their loved ones. Now they're up to about 15 people have died. And thank the firemen and women, and thank those on the line who are doing their job to try and secure people's homes from looters and try to limit the damage done by the fire. But you're going to see a lot of litigation out of that on the civil end against the city, against many of the other participants who let this happen. There was something, and they hired a woman to run the water systems and pay her over $700,000. And that person did not set up any plan for a backup for the reservoir or to help the police when their hydrants would run out of water. So there's a lot going on out there that'll be interesting. Again, say a prayer for the people, say a prayer for those people helping them. This has been an update from Rich Giardino, from the Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet. Enjoy it. I hope that you'll share this with your friends. And again, highlighting a lot of things going on involving crime, the Constitution, and politics in the last few months. And it'll shake out after a lot of the nominations go through. But until then, support the police, support fire EMS, our prison guards, support our probation and parole, And particularly remember that the dispatchers, who are the silent parts of the criminal justice system and the public safety system, without a dispatcher, you can't get fire, police, or EMS. They're the first ones you call, and their first question is, what's your emergency? And they do their job. They don't ask how you identify. They don't ask your religion, your politics, or what your race is. They ask you, what's your emergency? Where do you need us? And they send help. And I find that across the board for law enforcement as well. People condemn the police. They shoot bottle rockets at us. They say, fry them up like bacon. They ambush police. And then the next day they'll call 911 because they want a police officer. And we go. We don't care what their color is. We don't care what their politics are. We don't care how they identify, how their relationships are, what their religion is. We go because that's our job. So support the police. Thanks for listening to the Rich Giardino Show. And please like, share, and subscribe on X, YouTube, Apple, Facebook, Rumble, Spotify, and other premium channels. This is a special edition of the Rich Giardino Show. Thank you.
Like and subscribe to The Rich Giardino Show, part of the Elite Influencer Network, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you next time on The Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet.